Hello and welcome, fellow travelers, to Novice Advice, a video series focused on talking about tabletop role-playing games and giving advice for anybody who's a player or dungeon master that is interested in a particular topic or subject about this wonderful hobby of ours. My name is Liam McKinnon, and I am a professional actor and dungeon master in the city of Edmonton, and I'm here to share my advice with all of you about role-playing specifically. If you clicked on this video, you are probably wondering how you can role-play better or how you should approach role-playing a particular character that you have in mind. Maybe you're a part of a campaign that has given you the license to be able to role-play to your heart's content, and maybe that's a new thing for you, or something that you have limited or very little experience actually doing, or maybe you've had experiences before when heavy roleplay was not encouraged or not supported, and you want to actually tap into the secret of how to actually do it. Well, I'm here to help you out and give my honest novice advice on the subject, because I'm mainly a dungeon master. There's been very few times when I've actually played as a player, kind of for the same reasons that you are probably watching this video. I've had a limited experience as being a player, mainly because a lot of the times when I wanted to pursue role-playing, it wasn't accepted. At least my preferred, approach to role-playing wasn't accepted. A little bit of history about me when I first got into role-playing games. I talked a little bit about this in my video talking about finding an RPG system that is right for you. When I first played the very first edition of Dungeons & Dragons, the one that came out back in the 70s, I really wanted to play characters that explored elements of, things that I found interesting, about humanity. I didn't even realize that's what I was kind of exploring. I wanted to explore very complicated topics, the difficulties between finding gray areas between characters. I liked being the person in Nerf guns who would betray other people, because I always found that the secret villains or the people with an ulterior motive or an extra layer behind who they were, aside from just, I'm with everyone and we're shooting guns at the bad guys. I always found that those characters were the most compelling. I also found that those characters caused the most play dates to end abruptly with arguing, shouting, and frustration. When I was playing characters like this back in our tabletop role-playing days, I had found that my characters were not appreciated or accepted, and usually whenever we engaged in something that caused us to go into deep roleplay and I really wanted to commit to the idea of playing a character and embodying that character's values and identities, I was pulled aside to another room and told that you're not allowed to do this. It was very reminiscent of one of the reasons why I felt like I couldn't be an actor as a kid, because when I was in grade school and I wanted to perform in front of my class, I had a teacher pull me out into the hallway and tell me that wasn't okay and that I was distracting from the very important work that everybody was doing on a Friday, 15 minutes before school ended, when nothing was going on. So I was made to feel guilty about these pursuits. Those pursuits, specifically in this case, were trying to solve racism. Yeah. I had a character who was a human, I want to say it was a cleric. Yeah. I was a human cleric who really wanted to understand the nuances of the threats that were going on inside of a cave in the Greyhawk setting. This particular cave was host to a lot of villains and monsters and creatures. The creatures that we specifically were finding in this particular session were kobolds, and my character actually spoke kobold. So for myself, I thought this was a great opportunity where the dungeon master was actually taking an interest in what I wanted to pursue. My uncle was presenting a situation to us where we had a bunch of kobold eggs in front of us. And I saw these eggs and I thought to myself, interesting. The circumstances for us going into this cave are the townsfolk are afraid of whatever is going on in the cave. Whatever is going on is that the creatures are attacking or threatening to attack this particular village or fort. And I was thinking, well, we have a bunch of unhatched kobold eggs here. I speak kobold. So one of the things we could actually do is take these eggs, bring them into town, allow them to incubate and hatch, and then I could train up some folks to be able to speak Kobold, or heck, I could even speak Kobold myself, and we could actually bring these creatures into the civilization that we are currently a part of. What can happen is these kobolds could like hatch, and the individuals who are afraid of these creatures would be able to see them. And like hatchlings aren't necessarily threatening as far as I understand it, so they could see them, raise them up to be some kind of defense force or some kind of mediary between the different groups. And maybe we could actually learn in many years' time to grow a sense of understanding where these creatures grow up in the civilization. The people of the town can learn about their culture and about their lives, and we can all come together and unify under this understanding that these creatures are a part of your civilization as well. You don't have to be afraid of them because of how they look or because of what their grandparents or their parents were before. You can adopt them into your own culture. And these creatures can learn about your culture as well and pass it on to their family, because if that kind of culture accepts just what people look like, well, they can be accepted as well, and they can teach lessons and pass them on to the older generations and pass it on to their other allies within the caves. In my opinion, that was me wanting to role play to the extent that I wanted my character to go to. I was playing a cleric who valued life and safety and sanctuary. I was mostly non-violent, and I really wanted to engage in that. And my uncle told me, basically breaking the veneer between role-playing and not, that would take too long, and it wasn't possible. And of course, many of you listening to this probably say that my uncle was right. That my uncle was very much like, yes, this will take too long, and nobody has time for this lengthy campaign to be able to have the situation where you create and solve racism, Liam. Sorry about that. But what happened next was a very hard thing for me. What happened next was that we, I think, returned to that situation, and the eggs were taken away. They had hatched and they were gone. And the next encounter we had with kobolds was one that was violent. One where we were fighting these creatures, and I was trying to talk to them because I spoke kobold. And then my cousin was running out into combat and shooting arrows at them, and I wanted to try to stop them. And I wanted to say, no, we're not doing this, and we got to try to talk to them. And then I think I got in the way of one of my cousin's arrows, and I got shot. It turned into a situation where, again, we were pulled aside, and I don't remember the full extent of the conversation, but it is a sour memory in my life that I will never forget. That's also probably why you are watching this video, because you have probably experienced something just like that. A situation, maybe not as extreme as trying to solve racism, but maybe a situation where you were forced into a circumstance that you believe your character wouldn't be put into. For better or for worse, because sometimes people are asking about, well, is it okay for me to roleplay certain situations? And maybe my character is being rather aggressive. Maybe my character is not doing what the party wants. Maybe I'm being a problem here. I'm here to let you know, first of all, any circumstance in which someone made you feel like you couldn't immerse yourself in a character and you couldn't roleplay, that circumstance sucks, and it's bad, and it turns you off of something that is truly beautiful. One of the things that got me into tabletop role-playing games is, like I said, outside of my real life, when I was a kid, I didn't think that this kind of lifestyle was okay, that my life of being a performer and an entertainer was not okay. I felt as if I was a burden to most and someone who couldn't really be who he was. And that's where I thought role-playing games were actually possible. Like, it was possible for me to actually inhabit a person and express to my heart's content. And it sucked when I realized, oh, well, only to a certain extent. One of the things that's interesting about role-playing games that isn't really the same when it comes to acting is that in a role-playing situation, you are not just an actor. You're also a writer, and the Dungeon Master is also a writer. Everybody at the table is writing something, whether it is using your own personal character sheet to write them down, or for the Dungeon Master, planning out a session in notebooks or using any kind of tablets or devices to construct an actual narrative. We're all writers of different pieces. And so when you are working first in a writer's room before we ever get into acting, we're putting a lot of ourselves into these characters. And one of the things I notice when it comes to first-time role players is they feel the process is very private and they don't want to share things with the dungeon master. And also that they present what they have brought to the dungeon master with their character essentially as, this is what I'm doing. And this is what I'm going to present, and there will be no collaboration, and no insight of yours will be brought in to allow my character to grow or to be presented in any other way other than what I've presented. It's not even like I have an interest in playing. It's like, this is what I'm going to play. And they shut down on any interaction or meaningful engagement with a dungeon master. Once again, I understand this. I once had an experience where I was playing a character that I really wanted to play, who was a half-elven sorcerer who had a history with drow. And if you don't know who drow are, they are basically underdark, like subterranean elves who come from a very like seedy background with individuals who pray to an evil demon goddess. And I was playing a male character that is part of a society that is mainly matriarchal. So I was personally saying, well, this character is on the run from the society and they don't really like want him to be a part of this community and they're trying to kill him because he's so powerful. My dungeon master asked, that makes no sense. Why would they not want him? For me, it was an element of being like, oh, the dungeon master doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. And that's usually the fear. The fear of this is usually that the dungeon master won't understand what I'm trying to do. And so we make our process private. But I want to stop you immediately from doing that. I want you to know you should make your process public. You should let people know exactly what you intend. Maybe not the entire nuances of your character or the entirety of your backstory or what it is that got you to this place, because speaking as an actor, I will say that nobody really needs to know your process that gets you to the place. Most people just want you to be able to do the job and move on from there. But what you should do is communicate with your head of the table, your director, or whoever it is that is establishing this world about what it is you want to bring, what you're excited to bring. Sharing your passion and your enthusiasm is a very important part of collaborative storytelling and role-playing in general. If you don't do that, then you're basically coming into a space like in a private room where you are not open to anybody else's input and you're going to be sharing only your own experiences and not going to be touched or changed by anybody else. And that's not great when it comes to the idea that you're going to be meeting on a weekly, basis or bi-weekly, and you want to engage in a narrative that will help you progress further into your character work and open you up to other possibilities. As a fellow human being, I can tell you, my life has evolved tremendously, and no one character I've ever made has ever stayed the same. Because we're not all just standing archetypes or stereotypes, we evolve, and so we want our characters to evolve with the people that we're with always. Now, when you make your process public, you should let your dungeon master know that this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to engage with this. Again, you're asking me, an actor, how do I roleplay better? The best way I, as an actor, can communicate this is the concept of the triple threat. Every actor has a toolbox. So imagine our toolbox is right here. It's an imaginary toolbox. In that toolbox, we can talk about any kind of emotional tools, substitutional tools, anything that we use to get us to where we are. But in a very basic sense, the tools that we have are usually trying to help us achieve three main pillars of performance: physicality, which could be dancing or just our basic general movement, little subtle twitches of our eyes or being able to actually gesture out a hand to somebody else. In our physicality, our vocality, being able to actually speak, project, sing a song, being able to actually present our voice and allowing a character to live and be expressed through our voice. And if we are unable to articulate vocally, maybe we are working in like a situation where we do sign language or deaf theater and we communicate in a different avenue. But it's being able to articulate your character's expression through different means. And then the third one is the emotionality, being able to open yourself up through emotional means, which would be the acting side of it. Actually being able to take the emotional impact that somebody presents you through a circumstance or from their own actions and manifesting honest emotion that can reflect a character's inner workings. That's basically the three main pillars. You as a player can articulate to a dungeon master how you best want to present this. Maybe you want to come to every single session in cosplay. Maybe that's what gets you to be the character. You dress up in a costume. You wear a funny hat to telegraph that your character works in a haberdashery. You wear a giant fur coat because you want your character to be il voluptuous ingenue who's very well-to-do. Or maybe you're a character who wears full makeup that is dirty and scraggly and covered, like caked in makeup that is just like the way that an outlander would be, or somebody who's out in the woods and hasn't showered in 3 weeks. The one thing I would say with this is make sure you do shower before a session. We really would appreciate you don't bring body odor into it. That's just a personal request of mine. Please don't go full crazy on this. Don't go full method on it. I appreciate you. And then there's vocality, maybe with being able to actually inhabit a character voice, being able to articulate yourself in a particular way. And that could be the best way that you can articulate a character who's very, very exact and trying to work their way, needling through a particular scroll or spell book, and they need to work as best they can. Or maybe you got some guy who's working a 9-to-5 job and doesn't really have too much else to do, and he's just kind of lounging back, trying to relax, and then you just bring a whole bunch of stuff to him. You're talking to me, I gotta go off and start meeting some people inside of a cave or a cavern? Man, I got 3 kids to feed. Come on, you're not gonna be able to get me out of this town. Not at least for 300 gold pieces. 400 gold pieces, you say? Well, maybe I'll think about it. Hey, kids! What do we got here, huh? You guys want to eat good for the next few days? Or maybe you just simply articulate softly. A man who is very calculated. Someone who knows everything about you and doesn't need to express beyond his basic emotions. And the softer he speaks, the more you are drawn into him. And the more you will listen to what he has to say and what he has to offer you. Maybe that's how you operate. Or maybe you need to be completely honest about how something is hitting you. Maybe a dungeon master will say, you are currently standing on a sinking ship and everything around you is scattered, and you are seeing people drift off in multiple directions around you. And you only have a finite amount of time to save somebody. And maybe you as a player need to articulate to the dungeon master what your character is feeling in that moment. Maybe you are feeling the rushing sensation of people drifting apart, and you are pulled back to the moment where you saw your family leave you before, and you need to inhabit the space of understanding the same level of complexity. I'm a level 3 character, and I don't have the resources, and I told everybody that we couldn't go out on this boat for this very reason. God, I can't reach out to Nova. I can't reach out to Sebastian. I just need to make sure. I just need to try to get onto one of them. And so I'm going to try my best to cast a lightning lure out into the middle of the ocean. It's the only thing I have. I need to try my best to not hit them because I know that it will electrocute them, but I just need to try. I need to reach out to Nova. I need to hope that she doesn't die from this. But I need her to help me. Maybe that's what you need to do. There's nothing wrong with that kind of communication, because then the dungeon master can know your needs and know how to meet them, as well as providing scenarios in which you can actually articulate yourself, and articulate yourself the best way that you possibly can at the table. Again, whether you're an actor or not. And dungeon masters, this is a moment for you to listen up. Make sure that when you are creating your narrative, that you are creating something that allows for people to actually roleplay and want to invest themselves into the story. Sure, maybe you're a dungeon master who doesn't care about roleplaying. Maybe all you care about is combat scenarios, having cool and awesome moments where people can begin to just roll dice, fight big monsters, and that's all you want to do. Maybe you just want to play test the idea of epic level characters with powerful spells, and you want them just to engage in that, to revel in that experience. And maybe you want them to invest their time in it. and you want them to invest their actual like personal interest and intrigue to it. I can say personally, even if that is your situation, role-playing is not only about social encounters or social interactions. See, if you're a dungeon master, the way that we structure a lot of our role-playing games is usually a balancing act between three different things. It is a lot of threes in this. There is the social interactions or social encounters, exploration encounters, and combat encounters. But these three encounters are not completely separate from role-playing. Tabletop role-playing is the umbrella of this. It is all under role-play. These three pillars are not the definitions of it, and then role-play fits inside of social encounters only. Role-play happens in every moment. The idea of a combat encounter being something that is completely devoid of a character's role-play and understanding the role they have to take on is impossible. Because if you are going to be doing a scenario where the characters are fighting this epic level villain, a vampire that is plaguing them with nightmares and ruining their lives across hours and hours of gameplay, and then you finally get to fight this guy and you only start focusing on, I rolled a 10, I rolled a 17, I rolled a 20, you are vastly misunderstanding the power that you have right there of catharsis and giving your characters actual release from vanquishing a true foe. What matters even more than high dice rolls or high numbers on your math sheet is being able to actually have the scenario be structured so that that vampire, that villain, even if they are low level, awakens an opportunity for the players to better understand their characters. Then exploration encounters. This is a moment for the characters to be looking for what matters to them. If you're in downtime or if you're out in the wilderness and characters are like, well, I want to be looking for a particular thing, you ask yourself, why are they looking for that particular thing? If a character has a backstory where they are trying to find their lost sibling and they go out into the world and they start looking for articles of clothing or signs of scratch marks in trees that are resembling that of their sibling's animal companion, or their sibling if they have the ability to actually change into creatures and they have a particular mark that they used when them and their other sibling got lost in the woods together, so when they found each other they would scratch marks in the woods, well then, congratulations. Your player's engaging in role-playing even when it's not a social encounter, but when it's the boring stuff of looking around a town or a tavern or being in the woods. You've already got your player invested in a circumstance there. That's the dream. Or maybe you're in a party and it's like such a crowded room full of dignitaries and stuffy shirts and there's drinks everywhere. You can have the characters roleplay to be like, where do you go to the party? What has your, interest? Do you want to go sit at the big dining hall and eat 3 meals before the actual conversations happen with all the dignitaries because they got to talk to every single person in every single kingdom and every single continent? I just want my shrimp. I guarantee you there's a barbarian that just wants shrimp in your party. Let them have the shrimp. And that's good. Or maybe the barbarian wants to involve themselves in that conversation. Maybe somebody's like very nosy and like, what's the noble woman talking to? Or are there any attractive, tabaxi people walking around here? Could I talk to them for no reason? I mean, come on. This entire gala is not going to be happening forever, right? There's going to be an after party, and maybe I want to take a date to that, and maybe they, want their whiskers twisted. That's entirely possible, and that can be possible when you engage in that. And then you open the door for the role play. In the social encounters, you open the door for them to actually be invested when they meet somebody. Like maybe they meet a hermit in the woods when they do find scratch marks who's also investigating it because this hermit has been looking for some particular bear out in the wilds. Maybe they're looking for that and then they can actually exchange information. And maybe they discover that the hermit actually wants to kill the bear, which is their sibling, and the players don't want that to happen. Or maybe they meet that tabaxi, and it turns out they're down for a date, but they're also needing something out of it. Something monetary. Or maybe blood? that can be interesting, and it opens the door for so much for the players to actually engage with. You as a dungeon master need to provide those experiences. But now I'm going to turn it on the players here. Because role-playing, if you want to engage with this, you are allowed to. And if you have the conversation with the dungeon master that this is what you want, then guess what? You've got the license. When that dungeon master gives you consent and says you are welcome to do it, great. Now what do? I'm going to reference 3 more things. These are actually 3 pieces of advice that Tom Hanks shares in almost any award show or any space where he talks about giving advice to actors about acting.
But we were all, they had just opened Hamlet the night before, and every professional actor in the company had gotten so drunk and was so hungover that they're trying to rehearse Taming of the Shrew. What is it? What is the line? Where should I be? The director got so friggin' mad because he said, listen, hey, this is my job and it's your job here. And I can't tell you guys what to do every second. Stop asking me where you should be. Stop asking what the motivation is. That's your job. You gotta show up on time, you have to know the text, and you have to have an idea. Now let's take 10. And we came back and it was like, whoa. I heard that and I said, show up on time, know the text, have an idea. I think I can do that.
What you need to do first is show up on time. This is important. Actually, show up earlier than expected. Show up to the table space ready, prepped up, and also a few minutes early, just a few minutes or a lot of minutes early, because what you need to do is provide yourself with an opportunity to settle in. I can speak from experience that when you are in a rehearsal space or any kind of acting environment and you show up late, it's hard. It's really frustrating because you have to take some time to get prepped and your energy isn't ready and you're thinking about a whole bunch of other stuff. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to show up to a rehearsal right after you've worked a shift that has gone on way longer than it should have, and you were too nice to say, I gotta get going, but you needed the money, so you decided to actually work, and now you're scattered, and you're not prepped up, and you're not ready, and you feed into an insecurity for yourself, and you become more self-conscious about that, and then it takes you so much longer to drop into your character that you want to drop into so badly. Show up early. Show up on time, but show up when you're supposed to, because then you will be prepped and ready to go the minute that the Dungeon Master presents you with that combat that he's been prepping up, or they've been prepping up for a very long time. You will be ready, and you will be ready to drop into it. The next one is to, know the text. This is a weird one, because this is a tabletop role-playing game, right? It's improv. It's all made up. We're here because we don't want to read a 130-page script. We want to make sure that we can just drop in and do whatever we want, baby. No. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Yes, sure, if you are just showing up on a homebrew campaign, great. You don't have to worry about it. But that's also not true about a homebrew campaign, because even in a homebrew campaign, a Dungeon Master has worked hours and hours or months or years of time prepping up an actual environment and a story. And so they've been presenting you with the story for a while. You should remember what happened from session to session. You should remember, where were we last time? What did we do? How did it go? What was the last encounter like? What is it that we are trying to engage in? How can I prep myself and be ready to go for that? Knowing the text, or at least knowing what your circumstances are, is crucial for you to actually be able to engage in the present moment. Any actor will tell you that the previous circumstances that inform them of their choices is the most important part to actually being able to engage in their present circumstances and to remember what will happen in the future because of those circumstances they're currently in. It will inform them about how they move forward, because the energy they will receive from their actors will give them a heads up of how they should proceed forward. But you also do have something that is written. I talked about how you guys are writers and you write your character sheets out beforehand. That's your script, baby. Your character sheet. Knowing your character sheet. As a dungeon master, who I am very thankful to say, I have invited and brought in many of my friends into playing role-playing games that never played role-playing games before. I can honestly say there are a lot of players out there who engage in role-playing games and have never read the gosh darn player's handbook ever in their life. They don't know the rules. They don't know what they're supposed to do. The only thing that these players have is their character sheet. I'm telling you right now, I as a dungeon master, I as your dungeon master, don't know everything on your character sheet. I as the director of the play that we are a part of, don't know every one of your lines. I know the objectives of the story we're trying to tell. I don't know what you're supposed to say. But that's why I look at the script and pay attention to you, so I know if you know what to say. I'm also paying attention to you to tell me if you know exactly what you're supposed to do during certain situations, because I need to make sure that you're aware of what these spells do when you cast them. It's one of the reasons why you see a lot of people casting Fireball and it affects everybody for comical effect or in a serious moment where somebody forgot how powerful the spell is. That is important for you to know. What spells do I have? What do they do? How long do they take to cast? If I don't have spells, what weapons do I have? What skills do I have? What do they do? What do they mean? What are my character features? What is my character's personality trait? What are the flaws? Did we write something on our character sheet that I should remember from session to session that allows me to know exactly what my benefits are and what my powers are? In this present moment when I'm talking to this guild master and trying to trade for goods, and I have a plus, like a bonus actually to help me with trade, but I completely forgot about it because I wasn't reading my entire character sheet and I don't know it off by heart. Know your character sheet. Know the text so that way we can engage in role-playing on an honest level and it doesn't pull us out of the circumstances. In an actual play game, it can be fun when the person doesn't know their list or doesn't know what their abilities are, but I can tell you it is so freaking good when someone actually knows what is on their sheet so that they can manipulate a situation to be in their benefit. That's why you do it, baby. So that you can drive the circumstance, and it's not the dungeon master's story, it's your story. It's our story. And that comes to the last one. Have an idea. Know what it is that you want to do. Have a bunch of ideas. Have some kind of concept. Again, from last session, what is it that you did last time? Did it work? Did it not work? Well, what do you want to do now because of it? Or is there something that's informing you on something different? Do you want to change it up a little bit? Do you want to engage in a different level of engagement? Like maybe that tabaxi, maybe you're not really into that whole thing. What was that thing that the tabaxi said about needing blood? I don't want to get into that. But maybe the tabaxi works for somebody else. I should investigate this tabaxi further. I wanted a date, but maybe I've got a date with destiny. That's, again, having an idea about how you can move forward with something and being malleable. You don't want to be locked down because sometimes an idea that you have is not something that's going to actually benefit you or the players. Again, going back to my idea, I'll admit it was pretty ambitious for me to say, I'm going to go raise a bunch of kobold eggs and try to solve racism. That was pretty ambitious, and it would take a long time. But I will also say I don't regret that decision because saying it was me trying to articulate, I don't want to kill everything in this place. I want to make sure that we can actually save something. And maybe the kobolds is a bad example, but maybe I don't want to be violent. Maybe I want to do non-lethal damage to the kobolds when I see them. And maybe I want to interrogate them and find out where these eggs went. Maybe I want to find the creatures that are responsible for causing havoc in town in the first place, interrogate them. Or maybe I want to talk to the people. Maybe I want to visit them and say, hey, why exactly do you want us to kill everything here? We don't have to. These are pretty weak creatures, and we understand them, and you clearly don't. Another example of this is a character that I'm playing in a science fiction role-playing game called Traverse. The character's name is Marcus, or MQ. They're a synthetic hunter that was programmed essentially from like predator drone, at least how I conceived it, was predator drone technology. The idea that their computer was put inside of an automated system that would literally attack and bomb colonies from a distance. And it being a science fiction RPG, I wanted to explore that level of science fiction. I wanted to explore what it would be like if I was a synthetic computer designed to kill humans from a distance, and then I got involved on the ground. What is the difference? What does it feel like to be on the ground when you are the weapon and you are not just, firing down on whatever structures? You are looking your target in the eye and you see the life go out. That's what I wanted to explore. So I asked myself, well, how do I play that in the character? I played it very serious. I played it very intense, to the point where the dungeon master actually reached out to me and said, hey, this is a team game, one where you actually have to engage in teamwork and be down with actually pursuing the objectives of everybody else. Now, I will say, I don't necessarily think that my choices were against the team. I wanted to inhabit this character to be a violent machine of death, and we were engaging in a lot of combat, and so I'm like, okay, well, I felt like when I was fighting, I was a tremendous value to everybody, but then in the role play, I started to realize that my character was still heavily combative. I like those choices, but it became very apparent that the choices I was making were not really jiving with either everybody at the table, or at least they were so nuanced to myself that it was causing confusion about if I was actually a team player in this group. So I changed it. I then had a new idea. Well, what could the character actually begin to actually embrace? It turns out this character is now tied into the Christian faith and learning about the Old Testament God and the New Testament God, and learning about God's divine wrath and finding out about humanity through these connections of faith, but then also finding out more about the people that you give justice to and asking himself or themselves, do they deserve justice because they have caused so much harm to everybody else? This is a fun character to explore, and I was malleable in changing it. Going back to combat scenarios, if you are coming in with an idea about what it is you want to do during that combat, that can help your roleplay so much better, and creates a fluidity at the table of, somebody has just opened up a door for me, I'm going to rush right on in and I'm going to start swinging my battle axe. But maybe that person tried to open the door, they got a natural 1 on the die, and they slammed and got, smashed their head, and now got a concussion, and now the door is still closed. It's like, well, crap, I got to get through the door, but I got an axe in my hand. And you start to realize that you, because you know your character sheet, do double damage to structures. So you, using one of your 2 attacks, split through the door, burst through, and then land one more attack onto an enemy that's inside. Knowing what you have access to and having these multiple ideas can change the actual structure of the game and get you to invest in the present moment. So that's really everything, right? Like knowing the text, having an idea, showing up on time. We're getting the 3 pillars for the Dungeon Master to actually give us this understanding of things. We know our toolbox. We are opening ourselves to this opportunity. We can go through and actually work on role-playing there. The true advice of this is just do it, right? Just do it. Do it unapologetically. And don't worry about the consequences. Just role-play. Yes and no. This is the moment where I just simply talk about one minor thing that's important. When you are investing in role-playing, sometimes you will, again, if you're a person who has had really hard experiences with, being a player at tables before, and you get the license from your game master that you are allowed to role play and you want to engage with these characters on a nuanced level and you really want to explore it, you might present a character that you never felt you could explore before. You might express or want to explore a character that is deeply, deeply tied to your own personality and your own personal life. You might view this game, whatever tabletop role-playing game you're a part of, as escapism. and you want to go and escape through it, and you want to be somebody that doesn't have to worry about inhabiting yourself. And so you play a character whose family died and you got no ties or afflictions or whatever it is, and you want to explore the nuances of this character, or maybe you want to play a character who's deeply traumatized and has so much like meat to give them motivation to their dark personality. The idea that they're losing themselves and beginning to turn into madness. I want to let you know, I love that choice. But there's something that's very important that I want to ask you. Are you at a place in your life, and just personally, where you can do this? I have been a part of a lot of tables and a lot of scenarios in my life where people are so excited about role-playing and want to get into this world and want to get into this hobby, and they want to explore intense characters. And they discover that they're not ready, or that what they've presented is deeply unsettling and manifests in a way that takes them off guard. I've seen people go nonverbal. I've seen people shut down at tables. I've seen people get angry with other players when their choices are not accepted. And I have seen this, and I can let you know that a lot of that comes from insecurity. And a lot of it comes from the fact that you are becoming self-conscious of yourself. I don't view tabletop role-playing games as escapism. For me, they are the highest form of art in myself to be able to perform and express. It's why I do it. It's why I do it professionally and why I've pursued doing it professionally. And it's why I really wanted to do actual play games on this channel. And I do. It's an element of being able to actually trust yourself and asking yourself, can I do this? Do I want to do this? And what is it that I want to do? And again, going back to that conversation with the Dungeon Master, saying, I want to do this. And letting them know I might be scared to do it. And I need help. And I want to open myself up to this because I want to be okay. I want to explore the nuances of this character because I see myself in them. And I want to be able to fix myself. I want to be able to right a wrong that happened in my life that I felt powerless to stop, that I felt powerless to achieve or to attain or to face. Because in these games, we become superhuman entities, and we can actually do the things that we were afraid to do before. There's a lot of power in that, but we have to ask ourselves the honest question, if we are capable of doing that. If we are open to it, and if we're open to evolving as well as people, we have to ask ourselves the honest question of, is this something that we can explore constantly and revisit and find love and passion and joy every time we show up at the table? Does it close us off? Does it make us antisocial? Do we lose a part of ourselves? Do we not like who we look at when we look in the mirror after a session? It's entirely possible. It can happen. My biggest thing when it comes to roleplay, I'm an advocate for people being able to play any character and bring whatever they have to a table. I encourage it. I actually also encourage the idea of playing dark characters, violent characters, individuals that are problematic, individuals that question a lot about like your own sense of humanity, because that's what this is meant to do. At a safe space on a table, you can explore these characters without judgment, because you're not going to be that character forever. You're exploring an avenue of humanity, and you will begin to see the vibrancy of it burst before you, and you'll be able to learn so much about yourself and people that are like this. But you also have to ask yourself if you're doing okay and check in, and you have to be able to be honest when moments are not okay, and when you lose a lot of that, and when you lose that confidence. Because as an actor, one thing that Tom Hanks also talks about is the idea that you are always self-conscious.
It's always a battle against self-consciousness. It's hard to get past the realization that you're pretending to be somebody, and people are looking at you, even if it's the crew. I wish I had more basic things, more tools. I wish I'd gone through more classes. I wish I had been forced to take a dance class. I wish I had forced to get up and sing in front of people. I wish I had taken I wish I'd gone to that kind of performance school in which you have to get past the self-consciousness of not being able to do it well and still having to do it.
I am always self-conscious about every choice I make. But I've also gone through the training to help myself work through that. When I went through acting school, I had a very big problem when it came to religion and looking at religion in a negative light. I struggled when it came to that because I'm deeply religious. I grew up Lutheran Christian, and playing characters that were the worst side of religion were hard for me because I had a lot of baggage with that. I still do. But the difference now is that I can still express a character through tabletop role-playing games or in my own acting work that is extremely problematic in a religious space. And I can play them with safety and security, knowing I know how to explore this character, I know how to explore them, and then come back to myself. I know the work I need to do. And if you can honestly answer that question by saying, do you trust yourself to do this? Do you trust yourself to go to this place? And can everybody else at the table trust you to go to that place and not make them, themselves, be pulled out of the experience? That you've all had a conversation and you agree that, yes, we want to play this character, we want to express ourselves in this way, and we all feel confident in you being able to do it. And I will say, Dungeon Masters, you need to be there to support and encourage your players if they want to do this as well. You got to be there for them, be able to pick them up if they go through those processes. You have to make sure that you say, good for you for doing that. I'm also not going to let you go down any kind of hole or dark space for yourself that you're going to be locked into. I'm going to be there for you so that you can know you are experiencing something great, and I encourage you to keep doing it. And we got to keep on going here because we got 4 hours of a session. We're not going to sit around here and just sit and wallow or sit in anger. We're going to turn it into something good, championing ourselves and championing the moments that we've created together. That's what we're going to do. You got to be there for each other. Once that trust is established, beautiful things can come through. I want to share one story that actually you guys can actually watch on this channel in one of the sessions that we had for our Curse of Strahd campaign. My brother Noah. My brother Noah is one of the funniest people I know. I love him to death. And he was playing Sly, a half-orc tabaxi barbarian that was very much inspired by Sylvester Stallone. This character was crazy. He was a fun character that was basically died in the very first sessions in Barovia, came back to life and had a bunch of battle scars on their body because he wanted to be a scarred up individual. He wanted to be a champion that could fight in an epic battle. And he also had a desire to be a seamster and be someone who could actually sew clothes and make articles of clothing that had a practical application. In one of our sessions, there was a moment where Noah had rolled 3 natural 20s in a row, a 1 in 1,000 chance of happening. And I looked at my brother, who had dedicated a lot of times in role-playing and was playing with me way back when we started playing these old games of first edition Dungeons and Dragons where we were pulled aside for role-playing too much or not being able to do these things. And I told him, what does Sly do in this moment? What happens? I, as the Dungeon Master, looked at a player with utter trust, utter respect, who I do respect and who I love, and said, you take control. Because I've seen you dedicate yourself, and I've seen you put the work in. And he made it a really great moment. You should check it out. It's fantastic. You can roleplay as much as you want. You can do it. I believe in you that you can do it. It's not something you should be afraid of doing. If you want to play these characters, do it. Follow the things that I've given you advice for. Try that. Communicate with everybody around your table. Follow all the pillars that I've set up. But remember, if you want to be able to have those moments at the table, it's a matter of trust. I have to trust you. I have to trust you in knowing that if you want this, I'm going to give you the opportunities to do it. But if you're going to get up to the plate, you're going to be put up onto the field, and ultimately you beef it, you buff it in a way that isn't like intentionally funny or in some kind of way, then trust is kind of lost at that point. It's important that we remember, in order to be in a collaborative space, we have to all collaborate. We have to be able to go down these levels, and if I have that trust in you, then I'm going to let you do whatever it is you want, because I know you can do it. I mean, you don't have to be a novice to know that. And I know for a fact this conversation isn't over. There's a lot of other things talking about, like role-playing that is bad at the table, dangerous even. Kind of stuff that can cause you to pull out the concept of like, hey, what do we do about role-playing and how do we deal with problematic players? That's a subject for another time. But when it comes to the role-play element, everything is permitted. Have a license to be able to do what it is you want to do. There's other things that, your table will talk about. You'll engage in actually being able to say, hey, we don't feel comfortable about this, or maybe not this. But that's safety tools. That's, again, talking to each other, being open with each other about where your comfort level lies. And once you have those conversations, beautiful things will come through. Because again, you can find beauty in the boundaries. If somebody sets a boundary for you, that's great. It's good even. Because you will be able to articulate yourself in a more creative way if you really know the character. Because again, you shouldn't get locked in your own presumptions or your own ideas about this person. We're all in this together. What makes your character special is you. Being able to know that you bring something unique to it. I'm going to bring something new to any other PC. The way that I play Sly is not the way that my brother would play Sly. If you watch Curse of Strahd, I'm sure that the way that you would play Sly, or Aaron, or Kari, or Vistra, or Squally is not the same way that I would play them, or the same way that the other players played them. You'd play them differently. And it's good to know that, because what makes characters special at the end of the day is the player that plays them. We remember the actors that played great roles because they brought something unique, because they did the work, because they knew what they needed to do, or they looked at something in a way that nobody else saw it, and they made it their own. You make your characters your own. You communicate, you articulate, you talk about what it is you want to do, and you do it. Don't let anybody stop you. Unless, of course, then it goes into the problem of like, we've caused issues at the table and it's a big problem. The Dungeon Master will be there to tell you if things are going to work out or not, but always be there to do it. Have fun. Always explore. Always be excited to role play. I know I am. And I'm excited to talk about the next thing with all of you. Thank you so much for listening to this bit of novice advice. I look forward to talking to you all behind the screen again sometime soon. But until that time comes, I hope you all take care. And enjoy tabletop games, guys. Enjoy your players and collaborative experiences, and enjoy being yourself, because you're awesome. Bye.